Chat team, what's up? We're here with Luke from Tangaroa Boys. So obviously I used to go to Tangaroa Boys College, and the bro's been on a mission with the rest of the crew who are actually behind you, hiding in the corners. You guys right back there, or?
Built for off camera.
We just broke one of the GoPro. You want to show the GoPro mount there, bro? He's holding, just in case it falls in the water. That's right. Where'd you get that from? From one of the Auckland markets? Or?
Yeah, man.
So, bro, hit us with a bit of info about what's going on. You've been on a mission, and we're down here in Southland.
Thanks for having us, bro.
Yeah, me, bro.
We reached out to you because you came along to speak at Tangaroa Boys College and had a mean message that about 90% of the boys took in. Some of them were still mouth breathing, but I listened to it and I was like, man, this dude's got a mean story. I love his kaupapa. And at that time we started having a talk about this mental health tour, and I thought, this is the dude we need to catch up with down in Southland. So the Lighthouse Project started with a bit of a chat with these fellas. We caught up at a local establishment, and we had a couple refreshments just talking about the landscape of mental health in New Zealand, and the fact that we have these friends that were battling. For me particularly, I had some friends, and I was also going through some shit, and I was like, man. So these guys came up with this idea about, let's build a trip around Aotearoa, hitting all these lighthouses to raise money for mental health organisations that are doing things in the small sector, in the grassroots level, the ones that are directly in touch with the community, because that's where the power is and the reality is. And so the lighthouse became a metaphor for the fact that they're built around Aotearoa to guide these ships during the weather.
Bro.
Right, where is a safe port? Where is a safe landscape? And so the reality is that there are lighthouses metaphorically in your communities, and it doesn't have to be an organisation, but it can be just a mate. It just has to be someone that you can reach out to in this in the storm that you're sort of weathering. And I guess as a part of that, we thought, so we established the Lighthouse Project as a charity.
Yep. And
then we decided to call the tour the Sweet Nah Tour. And I guess that was built around the fact that, bro, every time you catch up with a mate, bro, how's it going, man? It's sweet, bro, life's sweet. But the reality is, life isn't just sweet.
The Sweet Nah Tour.
Bro, sometimes,
bro, that's mean.
Sometimes the answer's got to be nah.
Yeah,
That's the reality of life, bro. You can't, you flip through Instagram, bro, everyone's having this amazing life. That's not reality. Reality is that, yep, you have an up day, sometimes you got a stick day, sometimes you got to stick weeks, sometimes you got to stick months.
Yeah, bro.
And you got to talk about it. So your answer can't always be sweet. It's got to be honest with someone and go, nah, bro, it's actually not. Because as soon as, for me anyway, from my experience, as soon as I start sharing that, then it's sort of like you feel that lift a little bit, you know, like there's a little bit of weight that just comes off those shoulders. So that's what we're up to. We cruised down from Mount Maunganui around East Cape to Hastings on day one. From Hastings down to the lighthouses around Castle Point and down the south coast of Wellington, across to French Pass,
Yeah, bro.
Nelson, all the way to Queenstown yesterday, and then cruising around Bukavu. Yeah.
So I know there's no lighthouses in Queenstown. What did you guys go there for?
Oh, right. So, major sponsor, here we go. Major sponsor, Classic Builders.
Classic Builders.
But we might have a hat for you.
Sure. We're fit this stone, bro. Got the new head of doom, bro. I'm running out of buttons here. I'm on to my last two, bro. Correct, bro.
So yeah, bro, they just had a branch down in Queenstown, and they've been on board almost since day one. Man. And they were like, look, we'll support you wherever we can. And so we got to Queenstown, met a whole bunch of local tradies. They come off the tools for the morning, and Classics put on a barbecue and a bit of a catch up. And so it was cool to catch up with them and see, I guess it's then a genuine effort to go, boys, these guys have got something solid to say and maybe you need to listen to it. So it was cool.
Man, so you're halfway through your tour around Aotearoa?
Yeah, I think today, after we finished the day, it becomes halfway.
Work it.
Yeah.
And what have you learned so far, bro?
I guess it starts with the organisations we chose. So there's 7 around Aotearoa that we targeted. But as we're going through this tour, we're meeting more and more organisations. So 2 days ago we met with Machu at Westport with a Kawatiri Men's Health, and that was a group we'd never even heard of until we started the organisation and started cruising around, and I said, people were jumping out of the woodwork going, hey, you need to catch up with these fellas. So I guess one thing that we're learning is that there's so many more organisations than you can get via traditional means of Google.
Yeah.
You know, something that seems to just pop up. And second of all, they've all got a different flavour. They've all got something different that they're trying to accomplish. Well, sorry, they're all trying to accomplish the same thing, but in through different means. You know, so you've got Surfing Farmers, simple philosophy, get you away from the stress of the day-to-day life, remove that background space, that background noise, get in the water, bro, struggle to breathe for a couple of hours, you know, because there's nothing like clearing the head when you can't breathe, and then maybe have a chat. You know, so it's simple. Have a chat, not have a chat, doesn't matter. If the fact that you've got off the farm and done that, this clarity or a moment of release. And then it's got the men's group wired up with Jonas, who takes guys out into the bush to experience, I guess, that cleanse of nature. You know, so all these different organisations have got different things, and that's what we're finding. But we're also finding the fact that every community is different. You know, I come from Papamoa, and the struggles of my community are certainly not the struggles down in Invercargill. And so if we're looking at a national health sector, I don't think there is just one umbrella sort of focus that can accomplish what needs to happen. It needs to come from these grassroots levels who understand the community, who understand these people, and these people are probably more willing to get amongst it at a local sort of less formal facility and trying to improve that space for themselves. So those are the key ones that we're learning.
Lean, bro. Cool.
And so, man, I guess that sort of leads into that first question that we've got is like, what is that headspace or that community space in the sort of mental realm down here at the moment?
So the rural mental health, I'd say, rural mental health down here is probably in a space that we've never experienced before, being drought, and I think it's put a big twist on the way we manage not only our finances but our team, our work morale, just business in general. It's we've been required to pull tools out of our toolbox that we've never used before, bro. So people are in uncharted waters down here, and I think a lot of people are struggling there. And I suppose the wider community are probably feeling the pinch because spending's been reduced big time. So it's obviously going to be hurting them in a time where we're just coming out of COVID, and some businesses should be flourishing, but you know, that's a whole lot of income not coming through because of the drought. So, but that's just a rural sector. I think doubling down on that, everyone who's not relying on grass growth has had a phenomenal year because we've had an extended summer, bro. So while we haven't been growing grass and milking cows, we've been tripling down on vitamin D. So I think everyone's had a lot of outside hours with some awesome weather. You know, nothing better than waking up to a beautiful morning and the sun going down in the afternoon as well. Both have been cloudy like it is today. It sort of puts a dampener on things. Here we are rocking around with hoodies and you know, sort of clenching the old the limbs a little bit and reaching for your hot cup of coffee. So it's been a good. I think it's been a good mood for the wider community. But the farming industry's in a bit of a pickle at the moment, just with the drought. Well,
you were just talking about a few things leading into it about the fact that your drought and the flow-on impact that it has within that sort of season, but then the ongoing impact of that is where it can't be measured at this stage because it's an unknown, right? You haven't had this sort of situation before, and I guess that reflects in the mental space as well around that increase in pressure and stress and how whatever happens on the job site obviously sort of, you know, reverberates through the community as they go home with their struggles or miss out on time with their kids because they have to be on the farm and things like that. So obviously, man, like the head space or the mental space isn't as good as it could be. I absolutely, like, we've got ideal situations of what life could be like, right? So for me in my Papamoa community, it might be one thing, but for you in the rural sector, because I know you're heavily influenced in that situation, what is the ideal sort of space that you see where we're going to get the maximum sort of landscape for mental health for farmers? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. I think just one thing to be aware of is that, like, at the moment we've got something to be annoyed with, or something. You know, we've got a stress that's is common for your friends, like down here. Like, we've got this drought, right? It's affecting everyone, and we're all feeling down. But it's when that stressor isn't there, we've got it'll be some other stressor. You know, it'll be something else that's putting the pressure on. And sometimes we can't talk about those because old mate down the road might be putting this persona out that he's winning, and you're here losing. And you can't talk about it. Whereas at the moment we've got a common issue. You know, it's a drought and it's affecting everyone. So I think, for me, it's that if we were to find out what that good place is, it would be dropping the barriers, our emotional barriers, probably just around, you know, just people trying to open up and show a bit of emotion and drop their guard. I was just driving in this morning and heard one of the All Blacks say that another All Black come up to him and gave him a hug, and back in those days we never hugged each other. And that's true, bro. You know, so we, like, farmers are old school, and we really struggle to drop barriers and drop our guard and be vulnerable. And talk about emotions, because we've always said it's been bred into us you know, since we were kids. They get up, you're all right, you know, brush it off, bro, you're all right, get up, you know, move on. We never actually sit in that emotion, and we can't name it, and one, we don't know how to acknowledge it. And so here we are as adults, we're farmers, we've looked up to All Blacks, you know, in Aotearoa, majority of our lives, who have been hard-nosed fellas who push through shit and never talk about their weaknesses, and then when, as you were just saying before, you know, someone asks you how you are, and you just say, you good, you know, it's just an instant reaction, you know, and I think it's bullshit, bro. So I love the analogy you've got that you shared there, and I think the perfect place for me would be to be just as okay to say, I'm all good, as it is say, no, I'm no good, bro. So that would be the perfect place for me, because although we've got a drought now, if we didn't have a drought, that feeling in the community would have been replaced by something else, because there's your brain's wired to find negatives in everything, right? That's just the way we are, you know. And I think we're always going to struggle to celebrate our wins as much as we should do here in Aotearoa, because of the tall poppy syndrome, and you know, you got to be too humble. You know, you can't walk around with a fat head, but bro, it's your life, eh? So I reckon, that's the ideal world for me, would be people who understand their emotions, who can open up emotionally, not just to their lighthouses in their family and their close-knit community, or when they're going down a dairy boat to get a bottle of milk, or you're going through in New Zealand with your passport and you scan them, they say, oh, g'day, how are you? You know, be okay to be like, oh, fuck, I'm having a shit day, actually. Scan it, you know, they might say, oh, you know, well, I hope it works out for you today, the sun's up or something. You know, just like that, bro. So that's the perfect place for me.
Because that's also requires acceptance on other people's behalf, to be willing to listen to someone or to hear that answer and not instantly judge and jump on that. Oh, bro, come on, man, don't be negative. Because that is the sort of situation. We've been bred not to listen to these issues. You want to sweep it away and, like you said, harden up. And I guess one of the other motivations for this is you're a young father. I'm an old father now, but I was talking to young kids.
You need a hat, bro. You put a hat on, bro.
That's why this angle don't get the ball. But like, I see a lot of the way that I raise my young son. He's 8 now, so he's getting on, and I'm embarrassed sometimes at the way I've treated him when I reflect on it. Some of the things I've said to him, some of the way I've sort of, like, if he has hurt himself or he is having an emotional day, where you're just like, oh man, stop being you know? And my wife pulls me up on all the time, and I love her for it, because she's become a product of a different environment. And I love my dad and my family, but he was a product of his environment.
Absolutely, bro.
And so all I ever wanted to be was to change the way I felt that his parenting style had been passed on from his father post-war. But I'm still finding, regardless, man, I'll say something, and I'm like, why did I even say that? I sound like my old man, I don't want to do that. And so there is that constant, I guess, internal struggle around what is inherently within us and the way that we perform just based on our experiences and the way we've absorbed this style, but also that understanding that it's not okay, needs to change, and so we're a long way from it. But I guess, like you're saying, and the first step might be just acknowledging it and being honest with ourselves.
Oh, bro, I think one of the unknown or untalked about or unacknowledged currencies in today's world, 2022, is the ability to get knowledge. Like, that's a currency that's never been around before, you know. Like, I could drive home now and spend 20 minutes listening to a mental health podcast from a professional. You know, like back in the day, old mate was just listening to blues. You know, your old man would have been just listening to some rock music, and he'll get home, you know, amped up, but doesn't understand his emotions or how to overcome them. So these days, you know, I think in the next 20 years, people should have no excuse, you know, to not know a little bit more about how to educate. And I'm learning every day, bro, about how to be a good dad and the effects of just some words that you use, you know, because I mean, you'll reflect back on when you were young, and being told to just get up and you know, we're pretty hearty, you know, you know, but you know, resilience. The way you get resilient to things is acknowledging the stuff up and learning from it and then moving on. But if you don't acknowledge it, bro, and you just keep moving on all the time, you know, you're not really that resilient, you know.
There's no learning happening.
There's no learning, bro. So these days, you know, like I look at my son too, and I mean, he's only 2, and bro, he gets hurt. You know, I'm gonna save him from dying if he's gonna get hurt. But if he's gonna climb something and fall off, I'll sit there and watch him fall off, and I'll let him sit in that, you know, that pain. And he gets up and he's like, oh, Dad, mum, you know, and he won't do that again. And it's just that, I mean, that's just one small thing.
Well, some of us keep doing it. He's making his head about 10 times.
That's because his dad's not even. Bro. So I just say it's me, being a dad and trying to learn different styles of parenting.
Well, that's a process, right? Continually trying to better ourselves, obviously, because we want these kids to come through as these wicked beings that we've sort of helped guide.
Bro.
And that is why I'm not doing the interviews.